Uta and with Amal, who both spoke to me about reading Savitri. Uta told me that Mother told her slowly, clearly, and Amal said, well, it has to be actually more than that. But when I listen to his reading, I don't quite feel that he has caught more than that also. Because for me, the mantra of each line is critical. And the connecting between lines is extremely important. We have to understand that Sri Aurobindo didn't like to use commas. And so very often where we would want to put a comma or a parenthetical phrase, it's not there, but we have to read it as such. And they occur many, many times in Savitri. Savitri is filled with symbols because the word is sometimes even insufficient to express what Sri Aurobindo is trying to convey to us from the heights that he's on in the overhead consciousness to our human earth here. And this is very, very difficult. So when we read, we have to go deeply within ourselves. You know, sometimes I tell young people who join me that you have to act out a line. I don't mean it like an actress or anything, but there have to be at times inflections. Mother's readings are full of inflections. She speaks once to Satprem and says, I did it without inflections this time, and it was pretty good. So we all have to decide for ourselves.
What do you mean inflections? What is it? Sorry, I missed.
Yeah, a small accentuation of a word that is key in a line. I would call that.
A kind of stress or some kind of accent.
Yeah, it's a light stress, yes.
Meaningful stress, meaning you select the word which is more standing out, but you can stress any word in this sentence and change the meaning by that. That's what you mean.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And very often I've heard tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. I've seen 5 or 6 different great artists read the first line, tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow, in 5 different ways. So
I understand that. Yeah, there was the game once with to be or not to be, when you emphasize each word separately. It was recorded by the actors. It was hilarious.
I've seen it, and it is incredible. Mm-hmm. Because if we just take that for a moment, and first of all, what is Shakespeare saying? Mm. Well, he's saying to be or not to be. That is the question. This is what Hamlet is asking himself. Should I take my life or should I not? So one, Ralph Richardson perhaps, or, well, there are many and many. You'll find on YouTube, if you type that in, you'll hear different readings that are so incredible. To be or not to be, that is the question. To be or not to be, that is the question. And you see how they do it. So what we have to find in Savitri is a higher way of expression, a deeper way of expression, a way that brings out the music of the mantra. And for me, the music of the mantra is everything. It's so important. So we'll work on that as we go along. Now I need to know the page we're on.
We are 133 page.
So one question on the rhythm, Naraji, how do you determine the rhythm for people who are clueless about that?
It's a good question. Well, what Mother tells us in a different way, she tells us that you read Savitri again and again, and you don't try to understand it with your mind. She said, what you do is take it into your soul, into your heart, into your psychic being, and let it grow there. And then with consistent reading of those lines, one day it will come out as clear as the sun. And I have found this to be absolutely true. For memorizing lines of Savitri, yes, it is a mental work, and we only have our human minds to do it. So we have to make these connections in the music of the mantra to feel so deeply within what Sri Aurobindo is telling us. So let's begin now with these lines. I can get, okay. So we have the might that came on earth, right? Is that where we begin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. The might that came on, that the might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. Notice here that Sri Aurobindo capitalizes the word might. The might is the divine force, the divine presence that came upon earth, not just for the Leela, because that Leela could be on any of the worlds. He came on earth to bless, very important. And then he stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. We could do the whole session tonight on these two lines, because why would the divine have to suffer? And why would he have to aspire? Is he the might? If he's the might that came upon earth, then that might doesn't have to suffer and aspire. But he does it through us. We are the instruments on earth that he blesses. He has stayed on earth to take our suffering into himself, as well as our aspiration. Oh. You see, a few lines before that, he talks that we could have roamed on this free sunlit soil with the childlike pain-forgetting mind of beasts. The beasts don't have a mind, and so they don't remember pain. They may fight occasionally for possession of a herd or a group, but when the fight is over, they have not even felt it. It's a childlike mind of beasts, he says here. But the beasts do not really have a mind. They have a vital, physical, obviously. They have sensitivity. Or man could live happy, unmoved, like flowers and trees, whose entire life is an aspiration for light and an ascent towards the light. You look at a bud and you watch the bud unfolding, and you see that it's aspiring for that light. so it can give itself completely. The might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. The infant laugh that rang through time is hushed. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and sorrow is his nurse of destiny. Well, we see this is very, very true, because our natural joy of life is always mixed with some sorrow, which he calls man's nurse of destiny. Why is there sorrow? Why is there suffering? All these things Sri Aurobindo has written about in the Synthesis of Yoga, Essays on the Gita, Life Divine. All these things are covered in great depth, but in Savitri, they're very compact. They are, each line, of course, is packed with power and beauty and symbolism. So this natural joy of life that we have is always overcast. Why is it overcast? Because there are clouds. There's not the full sun all the time. We don't have that path of that golden path that can lead us. Even on the golden path, we will find challenges and have to overcome them. But the faith in the Divine Mother is, for me, the most important thing. The other things can go on. We can face our difficulties, sometimes overcome them, sometimes yield to them. We can have sorrow, or we can get rid of sorrow. If we can clear the mind of all these thoughts that constantly enter us, constantly besiege us with thoughts that are not ours. Sometimes we think they are, but they are not our thoughts. So let's continue on a little bit. The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind. Because once we take birth, we have committed to ignorance. Unless we're great yogis and we can remember past lives and all of that, we don't know anything. Previously, it was said that when the baby is born, the first sound he makes is a cry, ah. But it's not true anymore of these young babies. They don't even cry anymore. They're born with hair. Okay. The might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. The infant laugh that rang through time is hushed. Notice here he says it's an infant laugh. It's a young laugh that rang through time, because this whole evolution is the joy of the Leela of the divine. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and sorrow is his nurse of destiny. The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind. Well, the animal doesn't think about joy or sorrow. So it's left behind because it comes to us when we take birth. And we are, Mother said that when the supermental comes and the supermental man is born, he will be as different from the current humanity as man is from the animal. Extraordinary statement. So we're talking about man again now. care and reflection burden his daily walk. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. We have cares, we have family illnesses, we have friends, we have people who do not like us. We reflect upon all of these things in our daily walk. But now he says something else. There's a semicolon there. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. Sorry for my voice tonight. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. Yes, man rises to greatness, but what is that greatness? It's actually nothing. It's almost, we could say, meaningless. Discontent, certainly. We are discontented because we have not risen, or we cannot yet rise above body, life, and mind, the lower quarter. If we could get into the higher mind, we would see everything different. And then, of course, graduating to illumined and intuitive and open mind. So he has risen to greatness and to discontent. He is awake to the invisible. Now that's an interesting line, isn't it? That we are awake to the invisible. But where are we awake to the invisible? Only within ourself, our soul, our psychic being, which is usually covered up by everything else. So, because we are awake to the invisible, we can also say that we have risen to greatness and to discontent in the evolution, taking birth, going through all those early years of childhood and the discontents and the greatness that come. We become awake to the invisible. Insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. Wow. Man is an insatiate seeker. He is not satisfied with where he is. Now, I'm not talking about the average man who goes through life and with its sorrows and its joys and its eventual death, but I'm talking about those who have opened or are opening to a higher self, a higher being. This, I believe, is Sri Aurobindo's message to us. Insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. He has exhausted now life's surface acts. The surface acts, what are they? Well, work, family, children, all of these are surface acts. His business, his concerns for food, his concerns for clothing, friends, etc. And now he says his being's hidden realms remain to explore. So maybe some of us, some of you are already exploring those hidden realms. They have to be explored. Mother does not mean here the Sri Aurobindo does not mean here the occult. Mother warns us about going too deep into the occult. So we have now, he becomes a mind. He becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement, he grows nature's Lord. Wow. Fragile tenement, our body. Certainly it's a fragile tenement. And he grows nature's Lord. Nature here is capitalized, very important. And then the next line, in him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. Now you could say, well, shouldn't that be read? In him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, you see how you two ways you could read it? But if we go according to the iambic pentameter, then it has to be in him. In him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. So this gives you a good example of different ways. I don't think any way is wrong. I think all ways that all people want to read Savitri are correct. Yes, they need to progress, but I would never criticize anyone strongly or vociferously for reading Savitri. We've had people from many different languages who read Savitri. A German is going to read it different from an Italian, there's no doubt. Okay. In him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. Well, only through man can matter become awake from its obscure trance. Matter is inert, dull, lifeless. But man takes matter into his hands. He can form a lump of clay into a beautiful piece of pottery. He can melt iron, smelt it, and form spoons, dishes, whatever. So man can wake matter from its long, obscure trance, because in him, in man, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. Now, that's a very interesting line also. Well, all these lines are powerful. Earth feels the Godhead drawing near. Earth is a conscious being, he tells Philippe Kumar-Roy. And the world is only the form it takes to manifest. Vladimir, I've been talking for a long time. Can you help us add a little bit?
Well, these are so profound, and this every time when we read every page, actually, there is this Vedic presumption, vision of the sacrifice. Man is that Yajamana who is arranging the sacrifice, who is offering everything which is unregenerated in nature to the light of consciousness, and this constant transformation taking place in him, through him, by him, and nature grows through him to the divinity and feels the presence of the divinity in her through him. This is amazing. If we think of it, how important man is, because he actually reached to the heavens and to the earth. He is the link between heaven and earth, holding both. And in him, this sacrifice is taking place, constant transformation. So beautiful, so deep.
Because man is the highest in the evolutionary thus far. And therefore, he also has the greatest responsibility to evolve. The animal doesn't have to evolve. And the animal will be here when the supramental being is here. The animals, the plants, the flowers, yes, they will change to some extent. And even normal man will be here when the supramental comes. Sheridan is not saying the whole earth is suddenly going to become supermentalized. So
There is something interesting also. The animal's thoughtless joy.
yes,
This is something which tells us that, truly speaking, the whole creation was made full of joy. And
yeah,
we feel it when we become totally simple, you know, without claiming anything, just living normal life, let us say, normal in a sense, without claiming anything, no desires, and just needs are satisfied. That becomes full of joy. Truly, that is the animal's joy. That is the divinity in nature. Mother speaks about this divinity in nature, in
yes,
plants and animals. They are more divine than we are in that sense. We are dissatisfied, discontent. We feel that there is more should be done, and that's why we are discontent. But in nature, it's already there, established, this divinity on certain level. So, and we have both in us. We could feel both. We could feel this. Just being is enough, really. You don't have to claim anything. And at the same time, you can't just be. You need more. It's a paradox of human beings.
every morning at 8:05, I have a meditation with all the workers in the ashram, in Oroville, sorry, in the Matrimandir. And recently a puppy was born, and the mother is fiercely protective of it.
Mm.
But you watch this puppy and you see the joy that it expresses as it bounces around and jumps and rolls around. This is this animal joy that is thoughtless. There's no thought behind it. And that's so important. I think we've gone quite a while. Could I ask you to read today, Natalie? It's not so difficult as the last time I asked you.
Right. Yeah, I'll try. The might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. The infant love that rang through time is hushed. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and sorrow is his nurse of destiny. The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind. Care and reflection burden his daily walk. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. He is awake to the invisible. Insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. He has exhausted now life's surface acts. His being's hidden realms remain to explore. He becomes a mind, he becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement, he grows nature's lord. In him, matter wakes from its long obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. A nihilist power that sees no more its aim. A restless, hungry energy of will. Life casts her seed in the body's indolent mold. It woke from happy torpor a blind force, compelling it to sense and seek and feel.
Thank you so much. Maybe we'll go over this passage once again next week, just quickly. There's so much beauty in it. I thank you all for attending. Namaste.
Thank you.
Naraji. Thank you.